Hello and welcome to my picks for the best games of 2019. Now I know this is a bit late, being in March and all, but I still wanted to do it and release it as I have been looking forward to making it, just haven't had the time. Now, the rules for the list is the game has had to have been released in 2019, as well as me playing and beating the game by December 31st. For me, this means titles like Star Wars Fallen Order and Death Stranding, both excellent games, will not make the list. I feel it would not be fair to the others that I have given time to and played. So, with those rules, I have 3 that stood out to me, and I will start from 3rd place and work my way up. In 3rd place, Call of Duty Modern Warfare. When this game first came out, it almost shot to the top, being my number 1, especially in a weak year for video games, at least for me. At launch, a lot of it was clicking: the amazing campaign, fun multiplayer, and the really tough Spec Ops mode. However, weeks went by, and I started to see the cracks in the foundation, and it caused me to leave me wanting more than what was here. So let me start with the good, the campaign. The campaign tells a strong, gripping story that is even more grounded than the first Modern Warfare. What makes this story work is the characters, because while we are reintroduced to some classics, like Captain Price, and left on a cliffhanger that signals a return of Task Force 141, the new characters, namely Alex and Farah, were also great to see. Compared to, say, the characters from Black Ops 3, for example, these were well written with good motives for what they do. The gameplay is also solid boots on the ground, as well as some unique elements like performing raids at a location. Those are some of the best levels. The story did everything it needed to do, even if it was a bit short and leads to a hopefully great story in a sequel. Next is the multiplayer, which at this point is a mixed bag. At its core, multiplayer can be fun with amazing gunplay, and just to hear the sound of a gun go off, it's great. There are also a decent amount of modes to play, not as much as in the original Modern Warfare games, for example, but still enough not to get bored. There's also the new mode Gunfight, a 2v2 elimination mode, which is more fun when they bring back the tournament every so often to win guns and skins. The way to build a class is also great, with the ability to take a gun and literally customize it to basically anything you want. With none of it behind a paywall. You just pick your gun, use it, level it up and complete challenges, and you'll get any attachments and skins you want. There are also some maps that are a standout, like Piccadilly and Shoot House. However, this does not work all the time. First, some maps are great, but more often than not, there are quite a few that are not fun, and some were straight up broken for weeks at a time, thanks to some poor spawning locations. Then there is a skill-based matchmaking, which is not optional, and I kinda wish it was. So if you have a few great performances dominating people, well, get ready to get fucked in the head in the next match. The matchmaking would be fine if it was set to a ranked playlist. This way, the people who just want to dominate no matter who the opponent is can do so in a casual playlist, and then if you want the skill-based matchmaking, you go play ranked. Then there's the issue of a game starting and a team only having 2 or 3 people. I understand matchmaking does not work 100% of the time, but it seems to happen a lot. Also, this goes without saying, the first few weeks were really buggy, with progression not being saved, challenges not working, the spawning as mentioned earlier. It was a bit of a mess. Overall, in its current state, the Modern Warfare multiplayer is the best Call of Duty has been in years. However, it does not top the heyday of the first few Modern Warfare and Black Ops games. Lastly, Spec Ops, which was just a massive disappointment. At first, it was a welcome surprise to have a co-op mode back that was not just zombies. Turns out, it was thrown together at the last minute. Or that's what it feels like. The missions are on maps that are too big with no specific borders saying where you can or can't go, until your screen flashes red to go back in 3 seconds or you're dead. The enemies are also super difficult, that unless you have 3 to 4 people and you plan everything ahead of time, you're just not getting it done. And having super difficult enemies wouldn't be a problem. If there was an easy, normal, and hard mode, it's just start the mission and within a minute you're being bombarded with numerous enemies and no way out for every mission. Infinity Ward has released patches to lower the difficulty, but the design of the missions are still the same, and it's just not fun to play. This is definitely the low point on Modern Warfare, and the game overall would have been better if it was not included. Overall, Modern Warfare is for the most part a return to form for the franchise, and offers a great campaign, and for the most part, a fun multiplayer experience. However, the issues with multiplayer, as well as the poorly designed Spec Ops mode, makes this a good game, not a great one, and ends up at number 3 on my list. In second place, The Outer Worlds. The Outer Worlds is a first-person RPG, developed by Obsidian Entertainment, the makers of the fantastic Fallout New Vegas. The game is set in the future where megacorporations run everything on planets far from Earth. You're a revived colonist and you are set off to go save the rest of your people, and as a result, save the colony. Along the way, you make new allies who can help you and encounter new species on different planets. For the most part, The Outer Worlds is an enjoyable experience that works well. The world built by the studio is great with some interesting lore behind it, even if the topic of corporations owning and running everything in the future is not exactly new. The gameplay, while not also exactly special, is fine and it works. The part that stood out for me, though, was the special move your companion can do, which is done in slow motion. Seeing Vicar Max whip out his shotgun will never get old. And while for the other games this can be a negative, here I think it works. The game is short. I finished the campaign along with some side quests in about 12-13 hours, which is a nice length. Games like Assassin's Creed Odyssey waste your time a lot for what they give you. Taking that game, beating the story is 40 to 60 hours. I'm sorry. Very few games deserve that kind of length, and Odyssey's not that. But The Outer Worlds does not do that. Now, I would like to see more stories done in this world via DLC or preferred a sequel, but it was not something I felt was needed to tell the story. They told what they wanted to do, and then they left. But the main reason that this game is not number one is that it does nothing special. Yes, the world and the lore is new, but it's based on old ideas. It runs like a well-tuned RPG, but again, nothing that stands out, and the graphics themselves are not that great. For what apparently was a mid-budget game, it does look like it, but it is well done and definitely worth your time if you like an RPG with a good story. But by the end of it, nothing here stands out as memorable. And lastly, my game of the year for 2019 is Resident Evil 2. Now, it may look hypocritical to say that Outer Worlds does nothing to stand out from other RPG games, yet I hand my title to a remake of a 20-year-old game. But I will make my case. For me, I started late with Resident Evil and did not play 2 at all, and with the news of the remake, I decided to wait for it to come out and then jump in, and I'm glad I waited. What makes this game great is the gameplay itself. It feels fun to move around RPD, and later the other parts of Raccoon City, and most zombie encounters feel like they have some weight to it than, say, a level in Call of Duty. The game is able to build a sense of dread and suspense throughout. You get elated when you find some ammo or health, only to have to decide, should you use it or not to clear an area, or risk running around the enemy? And this is without talking about the star of the game, Mr. X. His entrance to the game is second to none, and following that, you now also have the threat of him showing up almost whenever. And just hearing those footsteps while you're in a safe room, hoping for him to pass. So many good moments here in this game. For a single player game, there's also a decent amount of content, with a Leon and Claire side, and then an A and B side for each character. I will say for the B side though, it was a lackluster a bit, as it was just a different layout of enemies and difficulties, but the story was for the most part the same. There's also a good amount of replayability here though, as you try to go for faster times, or complete challenges to unlock special weapons or abilities to make other runs easier. The graphics are also really well done. Not surprising since it's not an open world game, it is easier to do so, but it is something that needs to be mentioned. It looked really good. There's also some side content as well with the 4th Survivor run, and some free DLC. The DLC is nothing special, but it is something extra to play through if you're interested. Overall, Resident Evil 2 was able to remake a classic for a modern generation, without sacrificing what made the original special. The game has continued the comeback of Resident Evil, and a continued hot streak of games from Capcom. Between this and Resident Evil 7, a lot of people now are excited, including me, for Resident Evil 3, and what everyone assumes down the road will be an eventual Resident Evil 8. Considering at the start of the decade, start to early of the decade, around 2012, 2013, most people thought Resident Evil was done for, with Resident Evil 6. But clearly, Capcom has brought it back, and we all now just wait for Resident Evil 3. At the time of this recording, it's coming out in a few weeks, and hopefully continues the trend. So, those are my top games for 2019. Overall, I felt it was not as strong as a year of 2018, but still a year with some solid hits, and barring some massive delays, 2020 should be a fantastic year, and I can't wait. Thanks for watching.